Friends, welcome into another edition of the Soccer Tejas Podcast. I'm Alex Parra. We appreciate all of you that listen, that watch, that follow along, that send us your questions, your comments. Without you, we are nothing, as they say. Speaking of we, this is the we I'm talking about today, not the game. By the way, you guys gamers, I'll ask them. I've never asked them that. We first start to my immediate, whatever this is, left or right, depending on your perspective, the one and only, today with scholarly glasses, Laura Gomez. Laura, good day, good evening. How are you?
Hey guys, I was going to say good night, but we're just getting started. So good day, good morning. I'm doing well. How about you guys?
I'm doing pretty good. The two questions I had, Laura, was always, what are you wearing? Show off what you've got on. And then, are you a gamer? All right, let's go full screen here.
This is like a thing for the Addams family. Like I love the Addams family because I don't know. I really feel like it kind of goes beyond like how they look because everybody thinks that they're weird and awkward, but they're really like a legit, like close family. I don't know. I really like for what it stands for to go more within like what it really counts and not just like the appearances to others. And it's okay to be a little bit of kooky.
I like my favorite character is Wednesday. I like Wednesday and the different reincarnations of Wednesday Addams. Speaking of Addams family-esque people, the one and only Victor Araiza. Victor, how are you? And good day, good morning. And are you ready for another podcast?
Always ready. Always glad to be on with you guys. And don't ask me about Addams family. I don't know anything about that.
No? Okay. We'll ask you about wrestling, right? You're a big wrestling fan?
I like
aficionado?
I'm a big wrestling fan.
Okay, all right. I do have to ask you, though, when we're talking about gaming. Laura, I've never asked you, are you into gaming? Do you get into the gaming side of life? You have some computer time? On my little iPad, all I do is play golf, and I think I'm really good online.
No, I mean I like the classics like
Pac-Man?
Crash Bandicoot or like Mario Brothers and stuff like that. Like I'll play with my brother, try to beat him, just have a fun time and then get upset because I don't know what the controls do, fun stuff.
Fun stuff. Victor, you're a gamer, I can tell. Hours and hours.
Used to be. Yeah, kind of haven't really had a
They don't let them do
video
it
game in a
anymore.
while.
Yeah. By court order,
banned.
you can't be online anymore.
Basically, yeah.
By wife order.
So it's been a couple of years, yeah.
Did you guys ever play FIFA? I'm bringing it back to soccer. I played FIFA in the early reincarnations, but now kids today, man, I have no idea how they do it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. They're always like their hands move too fast. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go watch a game. I can't do this. Bye.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's intense.
We should call live FIFA games. That would be something interesting, wouldn't it? Can we do that?
Yeah.
No, maybe not.
Well, you know what? Actually, this generation might actually get us ratings. But
that's right.
Let's watch the World Cup.
I'm not
in,
about the
FIFA
e-gaming
time.
or whatever that is, the e-leagues.
Yeah, there you go.
Speaking of that, friends, we thank all of you that are watching us, that spend the time. I'm being told now that
If you're still here.
If you're still here after that intro.
If you're not offended.
Yeah, there's a couple of those, Victor, trust me. But like us and follow us on all our social media. We also, Victor, help me out here. We want to grow our YouTube channel, right? So part of that is the subscription or what's it called? Liking or following or something like that.
Yeah, just do what you got to do to follow us. Stay up to date with all the videos. We're video based on Spotify too. So if you're into the video podcasting as well, our website, every social media channel you can find us.
There you go. So if there's no better invitation, there you have it. Let's start with, what we're all anticipating here in Houston. Victor, Laura, friends, the World Cup coming here in less than a year. The clock is ticking. And also, the teams continue, Victor and Laura, to qualify. By my count, and I know someone a lot smarter than me is going to come up with the actual number, but I see that 28 of 48 teams so far have qualified. I was looking at the list. Every day we get more competitions geographically finishing up. And there's several teams, of course, the host nations, Canada, Mexico, United States, that were in from the beginning. Some past champions have already qualified. And then some new teams that have never qualified, some that I've never even heard of. Cape Verde comes to mind, or Cape Verde, depending on how you want to say it. Laura, these are exciting times, opportunities for countries that never dreamt they could be here.
I've had conversations with different people, and some of them are like, those teams that nobody knows of, the soccer's not built there, they don't even have stadiums, yada, yada, yada.
True.
But I've always been, I guess, on the side of the growth of it. There's going to be growing pains. Like, I want to say, Jamaica hasn't hit the potential. The men's team hasn't hit the potential that it could have. But because of, the Gold Cup, it's been more and more that investors want to invest in, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, other island nations, or perhaps nations that aren't known for football or soccer,
Sure.
are getting the opportunity to be able to become better teams because of it. So I think it's great for those countries that, perhaps they're not going to win the World Cup, but they're going to get the opportunity to showcase their players, showcase the potential, showcase the passion that the fans have, and just to be represented, which I agree in all levels of life to see different representation.
Now that said, Victor, let's go back historically to the embarrassment of some countries as they made it to their first Olympics, for instance, and how really they weren't competitive. You mentioned Jamaica, right? Isn't there a Jamaican bobsled team or a story about that? My point also,
Yes.
we also remember when some countries that are now used to qualifying, El Salvador showed up in their first World Cup in Spain, if I'm not mistaken, and they were abused in the first couple of games, and then they made it respectable. Does it dilute, Victor? And I go to you on the, hey, this is diluting the brand, this is diluting the competition. Is that another way to look at it beyond the opportunity?
I think it depends on who you ask. Everybody's going to have a different take. I think the competition has evolved through the years, right? It wasn't always 32 teams. So I think from that aspect, and especially the way, the easier it is to travel across the world now, if I can put it that way, the money that FIFA's making now compared to previous years, I think you can afford to make it a 48-team World Cup, especially if you're going to have it now in multiple countries as co-host, as opposed to before where it was just all on the one nation.
Yeah.
I think if you're headed that direction, then I think, there is room for this. And obviously some of the great stories are the ones you guys just mentioned, countries that are going for the first time. And already it's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. So to add that aspect to it, I think it's kind of shares the game a little bit more. I know it's a money grab for FIFA, so that's the other side of the coin. But to me, the only concern is, when is it enough, right?
Yeah.
So I think if FIFA were to come out and say, look, we're expanding, if they flat out came and said, we're expanding to 60 teams, but this is going to be the format now for the next 10 years, 20 years, whatever. If there was a firm decision tied to it, I think that would make it more respectable to the competitive side, as opposed to, well, we're going to go to 48 and then we're going to go to 60 something. And then who knows where we're going to end up after that.
Well, but going back to the competitive level, there could be a backlash here. And I'm reading, friends, my notes on who so far has qualified for the first time. Uzbekistan is the first timer. Jordan, the country of Jordan, not Michael, and Cape Verde so far are nations that have never qualified. If Jordan gets scored 13-0 by Argentina, how is that helping Jordan? How is that helping Argentina? It only makes the next team that Jordan has to face have to score 14 because of goal differential within the group. So it humiliates that country. Is that a way to look at it, Laura?
I mean, I think that it's important for those teams to really realize and know that they're probably not, again, like I mentioned, not going to win the World Cup. And I'm sure most countries' expectations are not going to be, you have to make it into quarterfinals. It's just really, honestly, again, it's showcase their soccer,
Sure.
showcase their players, showcase the potential. And I think that's the way that they have to look at it. now we might have like, como se dice en español, la cenicienta, or like, I guess like the black
Yes.
horse that, out of nowhere might pop up and start, doing what they can do and to show off their talent. So I wouldn't see it as a failure or humiliating. I think that, yeah, it's going to be frustrating, like you mentioned, if, an Argentina or a Mexico or Colombia goes and beats a team 7 or
No,
10 to 0, whatever.
not Colombia, but
Do you really want to talk about that? You want to talk about Mexico and Colombia? Alex, do you want to bring it up?
no, actually we don't, right?
Okay. Well, like I was saying, so I wouldn't say look at it as humiliation. It's going to be growing pains, but I would tell the players to have that,
Sure.
expectations of perhaps getting scored on in such a major way.
Now, Victor, to your point about the money grab, if Jordan versus Uzbekistan, is that going to sell out NRG Stadium, or that happens to be the matchup?
Well, if they're playing Argentina, if they're playing Colombia, if they're playing, I mean,
No, but if
we
it's-
don't know what these
yeah.
matchups are going to be.
Correct.
Yet. So I think that's part of the question mark. And as far as the lopsided scores, I mean, we've had those already, and some people might ask or might say, well, why would you want more? There is a change in the opening phase of the format, right? So I think, that's why I'm always kind of wait and see. If we kind of look at the Club World Cup and that, that 1-1 draw between what was it, Auckland City and if I'm getting their name correct, and Boca Juniors, right? That 1-1 draw, that was historic. Those kinds of stories.
Yeah.
I mean, that's maybe what we can see. I imagine again, Cape Verde gets a historic result here against a bigger nation. I mean, that's we always say it. I mean, this is the sport that it's kind of the greatest equalizer, right? It's 11 versus 11 on the field, and anybody could beat anybody. So I think let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see. So, as any surprises, Victor, Laura, on who's qualified so far, who hasn't? So far, a lot of the so-called powerhouses are there. Countries like Senegal, to me, Ivory Coast, recently in Africa, they're coming through. They have some experience. Ghana, for instance, South Africa's qualified. England officially has qualified. This would be their 17th time and one-time winners. But your thoughts and any surprises, Victor? Someone that maybe is on the bubble. There's the bubbles. I mean, most teams that have any kind of ability are going to be there.
Yeah, I think again, most recently because he just qualified, Cape Verde is probably the biggest one, the small island off of the coast of Africa. Here in, Laura mentioned some of these, and I think that's going to be the story to follow in CONCACAF is. Can a Suriname, can a Curacao, Guatemala, can they make their first World Cup? Can El Salvador, return to World Cup after many years? Any one of these countries that, because of the expanded format and because the U.S., Mexico, and Canada are already qualified, I think they're going to make history. And so we're going to have more of these stories coming up and how many people are they going to draw to the World Cup? Obviously, it's going to be something that grows the game, grows the attention within their borders. So I think, again, for what this cup is shaping to be with these three nations, I think this is I was for the expansion, but we'll see what it turns out from there.
I'm for the expansion, Laura, and maybe this will be the last topic, but I thought that's what qualifying was for. FIFA's still making money off of qualifying. So this is just, and I think it can grow. You're just going to have pre-qualification during the actual tournament. I'm a purist. I think the best of the best should be there. But apparently I'm in the minority here.
I mean, I think that it's important to also grow and see, again, to all these other teams that perhaps never had the opportunity. It's just because it's growing now doesn't mean that it might scale back later, or if it goes amazing this time, it might grow even more. I mean, FIFA wants its money, like Victor said. So I think that, again, it's an opportunity for players that perhaps never get scouts out
Sure.
to where they're at. And I would take it as that, if I was a player from Uzbekistan, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to win the World Cup, but maybe who knows, the Dynamo might want to buy me for $1 million trillion, and I'll make it at the MLS. We'll see. So I don't know.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that budget.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying. But
We do. As we wrap up, kind of talking about the World Cup, President Donald Trump once again mentioned, and he was referring to Boston, that because of the policies of the more certainly liberal than Donald Trump mayor of Boston, that if things didn't, and I don't want to misquote it, but he mentioned the possibility of moving once again the World Cup sites. I think it may be not a realistic move. FIFA has contracted with these cities. Infrastructure movement contracts have taken place over many, many years. I don't know how realistic that is. Do you think, Laura, he actually believes that he calls up Infantino and a move is going to be made to a more suitable city? This according to President Trump. I don't know how realistic that is. It's just maybe just another comment to continue the political games.
Well, I think that nowadays the word liberal is being thrown out too liberally, like too often and too easily, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now just because you want, people to have housing and to have food on their plate, you're called a liberal, right?
Or well, that's called a socialist or worse these days, right?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, having affordable groceries, I wouldn't push it to be a socialist. Maybe a liberal. But then again, I believe that everybody should have the basics. I don't know all the policies of the mayor I want to say Michelle Wu. I don't know all the policies and what he's calling liberal, but we all know that he likes to exaggerate things, right? I don't know how this man has so much time to do everything that he doesn't do or tries to do or talks about him doing. Maybe, I don't know.
Hey, I'll give him something. He's got a lot of energy for almost 80 years old.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Look.
No, we're gonna
go back to the. I'm gonna go back to
let's
the topic.
Focus on the soccer. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that he has the power to do it. That he tried to say something similar about Chicago, and they were like, well, that you can't, you can't be.
We're not even gonna have the World Cup,
that. And there's no game. Hold on, there's no games there either. So I'm like, okay, well, go ahead and take it away from Chicago. And for Boston, I want to say they have 7 games, but she's already expressed. The mayor has already expressed that he doesn't have control over it.
Sure.
And I think that it would just make a big mess, and FIFA might have to step in there too. But I don't know.
Victor, it's not realistic. I mean, it may be a nice political message and speaks of the power the president has with FIFA. He's had FIFA at the White House. He's going to be part of the World Cup when it's hosted in the United States next year. But moving things at this late hour, I call it, would be very difficult, wouldn't it?
You would think, but if there's a country that can do it, it's probably the United States. Look, the one thing we have heard is with the weather, right? There could be some games that or at least times, right? That could, with the games in some of the cities like Houston that have a retractable roof stadium or a covered stadium, that maybe could get favored or for some games, I don't know. Again, I think the logistics of moving these games. People are planning flights and hotel and to move fan bases, depending on, even if it's somewhere from East Coast to East Coast, it's still a long distance for a lot of people. So I don't see it happening. I think FIFA has a lot more control over the World Cup. And I think Infantino there is going to probably do everything he can to sort of massage the president to, make it work out in the end. But it'll be interesting to see if that even happens. All I'll say is that we are in a red state in Texas, so I don't see if anything, it probably favors us. So that's the only good thing that I can probably see from this.
The potential. Victor Lauda, let's talk about one more thing, and a great segue, Victor, to Texas.
If Boston gets Argentina and they want to move them to Texas or something like that, you know what? Maybe I'll look the other way.
Maybe you will. Victor Laura, we're living, though, now in Houston, the prep for the World Cup next summer, which means construction, which means traffic, which means headaches. I've had people say to me, do you know what's going on downtown and why now there's prep for all of these road closures in order to prepare for the World Cup? And part of it was World Cup. Part of it had already been scheduled. But if you're going to be near or around downtown, Victor Lauda, in the next 6 months to a year, even during the World Cup, it's going to be tough going. And there's people out there that don't care for the sport are going to be inconvenienced. Is that fair? Is that right? Is that just what a big city like Houston has to do? Either one of you.
Yeah, too bad.
Uh-huh.
We want the World Cup. The majority of us want the World Cup here, so deal with it. It's 1 month.
Honestly, I don't see the difference. I mean, there's always construction that we're paying
Good point.
$1 trillion for.
Yeah,
just
at least
like
we're getting new roads out of it.
So I really don't see the difference of, because at least here, like towards Katy and Houston and other places, like they take forever to do any
Oh yeah.
any kind of construction. So it's kind of like, well, is there really a difference? Honestly, is there really a difference of, maybe adding 5 or 8 minutes more? Like when you go to a
5 or 8
national
minutes. How about 20 or 30 minutes?
I don't think so, Alex. I don't see the difference. Every time I even, try to go somewhere that's 30 minutes away from here, I'm like, it's going to take me an hour. So I already have that embedded into my DNA. So for me, it's not really much of a difference, honestly. And if you don't know that's how Houston works, then you just arrived, because that's how it works. That's why people always play around and say,
Yeah.
you can have a long distance relationship, even if you're both living in Houston.
I've never heard that, but I like it. And it's true, to be honest with you. Traffic almost as bad as LA, New York, Chicago, some other cities where we spend a lot of time in our vehicles. Victor, any last thoughts about the World Cup? I know we'll continue to cover on Deportes Nation the many aspects of this, the infrastructure, the politics of it, the competition of it, also the amazing stories of people that are going to be not only playing but traveling to Mexico, the United States, and Canada to be present, and also Victor, to be honest with you, the business side of this, and also so many hidden stories that are yet to be told, and this really is a global event that's coming up here, and I think we're all getting excited about it.
Yeah, I certainly am, but I think the only thing that I can sort of look at and say I'm a little bit disappointed is the lack of coverage around it, the lack of awareness around it. I mean, this thing's going to hit us like a punch in the face.
Yeah.
Come May, when everybody starts to fly in and people start to wonder what's going on. Why it seems like what was that they call it, 7 Super Bowls?
Yes, sir. That was it.
I mean, if it has that same kind of attention, people are going to be surprised. People are going to be asking, when did we get this? When did this happen? So I think from that sense, I don't know if we're going to be ill prepared, but we're gonna have it anyway. So get ready.
Laura, we have to be ready, and I think there's still a lot of people maybe are menospreciando, underestimating the impact it's going to have, the coverage, and also the visitors from out of town, from throughout the world that are coming here. I think we'll be ready as a city, don't you?
I was going to say something else, but I'm going to keep it soccer centered.
She's struggling. She's struggling, friends. She's struggling.
I think that Houston is not completely ready. Like what Victor mentioned, I think that it's very kind of like low energy right now of people not really knowing that the World Cup is coming. The amazing and beautiful thing about Houston is that it's very diverse. So it's not only the Latinos that are the ones that are, excited about, soccer or football. I mean, we have to understand that, football is the king of the world, whether you like it or not. Maybe not in the U.S. for now, but it is around the world. There's other places besides the U.S., right? So that's really all the fans really that are going to come here and try to enjoy Houston, enjoy soccer. So, I've seen some things here and there from Houston, but I really think that there needs to be more of a or push, or maybe like an educational thing for people that don't know about soccer and maybe want to learn more about soccer. I think that this is a time.
It is the time, and we're preparing for that. So, friends, follow us on Deportes Nation. We'll have more coverage of the World Cup, of all the different aspects of it that we mentioned, culturally, from a social point of view, from an economic point of view, and certainly a political point of view. So we want to hear from you and what you would like us to cover as we get ready for the 2026 World Cup. Let's do a transition now to the MLS and Major League Soccer. And this is a news item, Victor Laura, that came out in the last week when we were looking at recaps of MLS matches, that AI was now being used. And in some ways, the response from soccer journalists, from sports journalists, from sports people, and even from the public was, wait a minute, I'm glad you're telling us, but is this affecting real humans? Is this another way, Laura, I'll start with you, that AI is affecting jobs, is affecting a human being covering a match versus a computer giving us a summary? It's a brave new world.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if people are concerned about immigrants taking their jobs, they need to concentrate on the computers because they're the ones that are going to take our jobs for real. I've never been one to go against technology, but I do like old school things. I still like picking up a newspaper or an actual book and reading.
A what?
Like that.
A newspaper. Oh, I didn't think. I threw that out with my fax machine, Laura.
No, you shouldn't have. Those are things that are still important.
Okay.
But I love the feel of a newspaper. I think that it's important. I think that there is space to use AI to make perhaps a journalist's job more efficient.
Right.
But I think that everything comes with a grain of salt. I could give an example. Last time I was like, okay, let me look up some facts about, games that I knew that I had watched. And I looked it up, and they gave me players that weren't even in that game in that time frame of Colombia. And I was
inaccurate.
like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
So AI isn't perfect, perhaps not yet, maybe in the future. But as of right now, like, you still have to fact check it. And my point is also, like, is a computer going to watch the game? Because a human has to watch the game to input that information online or somewhere, and then for them to be able to recap. And are those recaps are they gonna be timely? Because where are they getting the information from? Humans are still needed. So I wouldn't say go against technology and AI, but I wouldn't say let AI write a recap or write an article, because it's still gonna lack, one, the voice of the reporter, two, the knowledge that reporter has perhaps of things that haven't been well written or have a lot of facts online. Historically or things like that. And then three, obviously, there's room for a lot of error, and you have to double check facts. So yeah.
Spoken as a true sports journalist, Victor, you just mentioned the lack of coverage in Houston of the coming World Cup. You and I, Victor, you and I, Laura, know that in Houston there is no soccer coverage consistently by the so-called mainstream media. I attribute that to ignorance, meaning the people that are there didn't play the sport. They don't care for the sport. And apparently the decision makers think it doesn't bring them ratings. Might this be a way, Victor, to overcome that and say, sure, we'll pay a subscription and they'll spew out a summary of a recap of the game. So there's our coverage. Is that good enough, Victor? And in some ways, let's put it another way. Is something better than nothing? Meaning, is an AI recap of a Dynamo or Dash match better than not having it mentioned at all?
Well, in this case, MLS isn't really replacing something they weren't doing already. They're just replacing human writers with, artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
The shocking thing to me was that this report at the bottom of it had a bit of a disclaimer where it said it wasn't, it hadn't gone through editing. So I think that to me is the worrisome part of it, where you still need somebody to look over it, make sure. I think in this instance, and look, it's probably getting the information from their database, where I think for the most part this recap was probably right.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, here's the thing too. I mean, and this is where I'm a bit torn. Would anybody have batted an eye if it was a human writer? I mean, would anybody have cared? Would anybody even have mentioned it? Sadly, I think people are reading less and less. I don't know that there's a desire for match recaps, or I don't even know if people click on news links anymore. And I think they just look at an image, right? The score line on an image on social media, and probably don't go past that. So we talk about supply and demand. I don't know if there's, a demand for sports journalism as much. Um, I don't know. It's a tough subject because I think it's got different layers, but I think that's a part of it. I think had it been, written by John Doe, nobody would have cared. Nobody would have made an issue out of it. Um, and we'll see where it ends up. MLS has been all at this. MLS has been at the forefront of this, using technology, right? Artificial intelligence and stepping out from the norm. A couple of, I'll say years ago, but I don't think it was very far. There was a youth tournament where MLS used AI announcers, commentators, right? Basically robotic commentators to call these U16, U17 games. So that was a little weird reality.
But they were better than Alex Parra and Laura Gomez, of course.
Well, for some of these announcers that just yell all the time, I thought it wasn't that bad of a. It might have been an upgrade in that sense, but it is a new world. It is a new reality, and this is part of it. There's AI being integrated into every business, and I think, this is a reality. It's not gonna shy away from soccer, from American sports.
And look, Laura, I think Victor brings up a really good point about calling a live match and how that can be enhanced, and how maybe the old school way of doing things is changing, and I think we have to be open to technology. I know in the past, for instance, NFL matches, they decided to take out commentators entirely and just have nat sound and hearing, like we've done with the UFL. We listen to the call. We listen to the coach's conversation between themselves and players, right?
I think that's a big part of it. That phrase, the customer is always right. I think the fan, right? The consumer is the one that's going to drive this. Sure. Are they going to be okay with an AI commentator or an AI report? Do they even care to have one, right? I think if there's an uproar from the public saying, listen, this isn't good enough for us, we don't want this, I think things will change. But I think it starts from that, first and foremost.
I think, Laura, it also has to do with the almighty dollar. If you can get AI to comparably...
It's about cutting costs for companies.
Comparably cover something the same way, you go in that direction, because unfortunately, you mentioned, what's that word again? A newspaper? That's disappeared, and people are doing this.
Disappeared. No, let's keep in mind that it's still in a lot of communities. Newspaper is still the favored way to get news. So it's died down compared to even like 6 years ago, but it hasn't left yet. I think that there's still...
people don't consume it in paper is the point.
The actual newspaper, Laura, right?
My
the
issue
physical.
Also with my issue with AI also, and I don't know if, people really at home or, you guys know, because I didn't know until recently, until you actually read, right? That the AI centers take a lot of cooling down, and they need a lot of water. So where they've put a lot of these AI huge data centers, people are suffering from water shortages. So I think that there is already an uproar of people really talking about the long-term result. We already know that we have global warming, whether you want to accept it or not, friends, we have it. And I think that if there's no water to cool down these AI places, or water for people to drink, or, people that are opening up to take a shower and there's no water because they live a mile away from an AI center, there's already like lawsuits going up where these different IA companies, you have like ChatGPT, and you have Grook, and you have, I don't know, whatever the ones that you have. So I think that there's several levels to, is AI going to be the sustainable, smart thing to do? Because we also have a lot of group of people that are like, do not want to use AI at all because of what it can do to our environment, what it could do to the jobs and economics. And I think that, again, I'm not against using technology, but I don't think I would not allow them to do recaps or do things of sports, because again, to me, it's not going to have the same flavor or the same voice that, a lot of people just watch reporters to watch what they're saying. And Victor, what you said, people don't want to read, but if they're really interested, that's my thing. I think that people are really interested in what the topic is about. They're going to look for it. I think that they're going to read, whether it's a little bit or a lot. they're going to find ways to really get informed. So I don't want to fall into saying, oh, people are getting dumber or people are becoming lazier.
We
I
are.
just think that there's
We
different
are.
ways. Yeah, but I think that there's different ways that people want to grab the information from, like encyclopedias, people looked up before, but now people want to go to, Wikipedia and things like that. So we have to evolve with times, but also be smart for the long run of the human race.
Yes, ma'am. Let me give you one more, though, Laura. 48 countries coming to the World Cup in 2026. Every country cannot have a reporter at every match because of finances. You just mentioned, Victor, Cape Verde.
FIFA can afford it.
Well, FIFA can.
Well, that's what I was going to say. MLS can afford freaking reporters, okay? Because I used to work with MLS, and they paid $50 for a news article.
For recap, which is ridiculous. Parking costs you that much in some stadiums. But my point is, if AI can spit out an accurate game summary that gets to the people rather than the cost of a human being traveling, housing, and being at the stadium, the people are still getting the information, Laura.
No,
right?
But they're not. That's the thing. You're gambling with information. Like I mentioned, if you guys go into AI and use it and put some information in, and sometimes it does not give you the current players.
It's inaccurate.
I've tested out twice.
Sure.
I tested out with games for la Selección de Colombia y la Selección de México. They put who did they put as like one of their goalies? And I was like, he's been retired for like 10 years, like El Conejo. And I was like, bro, he's not even in this talk anymore. So it's not all perfect. And the user has to know exactly what to put, because if you say, give me the best players in Mexico, it's going to give you a list, but then you're like, no, but I want the current players. So there's still an art form to do that. You still have to put you have to ask the right questions into that machine, into that chat, in order to receive the right answers.
Bro, is she right? Victor, is she right? I like she threw in the bro.
Well, again, here's the other thing. We don't know what the cost is of maintaining this AI system, right?
Good point.
What it is to these data centers. Well, I'm saying, because in this case, it's I'm from what I'm assuming, it's based off of MLS is through its own data, right? Because I think that, like what you're saying, if you go ask ChatGPT, you might get the incorrect information because it's probably pulling it from sources that aren't as reliable. In this case, I think MLS is putting it from their own
website,
whatever system they use, right? So I think basically what you're getting in the box score, right, that you get online, that's kind of where it's pulling it from. So I don't know if this all, I don't know if this is a strategy to open up to, instead of having writers write recaps that could be summarized in like it is in this case, right? Just, so-and-so scored a goal in this minute, and then free up for having other writers to tell you more in-depth stories or more in-depth on tactics. I don't know if that's the strategy, but I think the other side of this is two things. The source, in this case MLS, right, or any league that does this, are they okay with this? We saw ESPN do this a couple of months ago, if I'm not mistaken. Are they willing to take on the integrity hit that this could be if you put something out incorrectly? Maybe they just see the counter to that as we'll just correct it, we'll just issue a correction. I don't know, but I think obviously they're willing to risk it if they're heading in that direction, and I think a lot of it is cutting costs, right?
Sure,
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business. But the other side of this is, especially in soccer, I think there's a lack of independent media, and there's a lack of outlets that or journalists that cover the sport, or that can cover the sport, that are employed to cover the sport. That's the bigger, I think, story here, because at the end, MLS can do. They're a company, right? But what Laura just said, the history side of this, the archive side of this, the chronic. The chronological side of this to have a person that's archiving this and putting that together. I mean, I don't know if we'll have that in years, because if it's all, there's not enough people covering the game.
And Victor, beyond the accuracy of a game recap, it also has to do from the perspective. And here I do believe in the First Amendment, in how you cover a story from a perspective of not having the MLS, with all due respect, telling us what's happening. Objective eyes should be there seeing what's happening. There's so many incidents beyond what happens in the score, beyond the formation, beyond the lineup, that can talk about what's really happening in terms of attendance, in terms of, hey, the crowd, the sellout crowd was backing the team the entire match. And the stadium
events.
the stadium is half full, and there was no support, and fans walked out at halftime. What I'm saying is that could censor the reality of what's happening, correct? If it's
And
given.
that might be part of the reason MLS is doing it, because that's why, again, I think it's more of a, we need more soccer journalists and we need more independent media outlets. And I think that's really what's hurting here. It's that MLS, like it or not, like Laura just said, employed a lot of these journalists that now aren't going to, either they're going to have to do it on their own, which a lot already do, or there's already, because of this, there's less jobs out there for them. But I think it's more of the other side of it, where, there's just a lack of outlets that are hiring for soccer, and the lack of outlets, period.
I agree. Friends, what do you think? Those of you that follow us, that have taken the time to be here with us on the Soccer Tejas podcast, what kind of coverage do you want? What kind of coverage do you expect? Is AI good enough for you? Or would you prefer Laura and Victor to actually be giving you their recaps and their thoughts on matches and leagues, etc.? So I think it's an ongoing topic that we will revisit, not only in the context of sports and soccer, but I think in most of our daily lives, AI trying to, implementing it. Technology can be good, but as we've discussed, it can also be bad. So let's talk a little bit right now, Victor, sticking with the MLS, about the Houston Dynamo. The last match out, we know how that ended up. It's a team that is officially out of the playoffs. Now, is it time to start thinking about next season? One match left. What do you do in that last match? What is your mindset, Victor, going in to the last game of the season when you know it's over as far as playoffs?
Well, I wish they would play some of the younger kids. Let's see what they have to offer. Let's see some of these younger kids that are supposedly coming up the pipeline get some MLS minutes, at least kickstart their career in that sense. I'm sure there's players that are fighting for contracts, but a lot of those you already kind of have your mind made up on. There's one game's not going to change a lot of that opinion, right? But I would like to see some of the younger players that haven't gotten enough minutes this year get a taste of MLS action.
Laura, we discussed in our last podcast about the future of Ben Olsen, the future of the team. If this calls for a major shakeup, it doesn't appear it's headed in that direction. I think if something extreme were to be announced, it would have been announced already. I don't know if you share the same thoughts. Are they waiting for the last match and then immediately within 24 hours it's going to be changes are coming?
I think that the team needs a shakeup. It needs something. Obviously, what they're doing or have been doing so far hasn't gotten them a championship. So something needs to change. Because if, we've seen fans slowly but surely leaving.
Not Shirley Temple, but surely.
Not Shirley Temple,
yes.
But really leaving the stands even before the game finishes, or even, expressing online, like the hardcore fans, that they're like, well, next year I'm not going to buy a season's pass. There's no point of it. There's no point to watch a team that, this is not my sentiment. Well, it is my sentiment. That's boring. Doesn't have a lot to offer and isn't really, going anywhere. So it's kind of like stale. I kind of feel like the Dynamo's like a 6-year-old stale bread that's in the back of their fridge, and they're like,
wow,
it's still good. Maybe we can eat it next week. So I think it's time to take out the old bread and really do something to really make this team attractive and make it a team that people actually want to watch. And to me, when they say, oh, well, we're competing with, so many other people that have teams already, I don't care. I mean, if Latinos and other, backgrounds are watching the Texans that suck too, you're not gonna tell me that they can't watch, the Dynamo. Like, they're not doing the mark and they're not doing the work to really make people really feel like they're connected to this team. So I don't know. Throw the moldy bread away.
Victor, as a team, the Dynamo get ready for this last matchup. Again, beyond maybe playing younger players, when there's nothing left at stake, are fans interested in being there, supporting, watching, following? Or do you think the season's over? I mean, the season is over, not officially, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. Will we be able to gauge the kind of quality of the support, maybe, is what Laura was alluding to as well. Is it there for the end here?
Well, it's an away game.
Yeah.
I don't think
no one's traveling up to
fans.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so. A few may, but I don't think anything past that. And there's supposed to be a watch party at Brian Chink's bar right there near the stadium. But other than
Pitch
that,
25,
I mean,
yeah.
but I don't know how many people are showing up to that. So I think people are ready to see what the offseason brings, what kind of signings are coming this way, if any. Players that they can get excited about, who's staying, who's leaving. And, it's going to be a bit of a long offseason. But again, it'll be telling to see the moves they make. I don't foresee a big signing, but maybe they'll prove us wrong. I've said it. If they want an impact signing like a Messi or a Son or a Tomas Muller that are hard to come by, James Rodriguez is out of a contract here soon. Make a pitch.
Out at Leon, correct?
Why not? Captain of the Colombian national team. I think you have plenty of people flock to Shell Energy Stadium for that.
We'll talk about the dash and
during
playoffs.
a World Cup year, by the way.
Well, so calculating all that, Laura, is it time for the Dynamo to start looking and announcing something big? It's to rekindle people's interest, to at least let's give hope to fans that have been following this team for a while, and then riding the wave of the World Cup and all the interest associated with that. This can be very calculated, but I think Victor's correct. Is a big signing on the horizon?
I don't know if it's in the horizon, but I think it's desperately needed. I think that it needs some energy. This team, again, it's stale. This energy, that's flowing right now is really stale. Like, people are not interested.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I'm telling you, my dad, that has been a football enthusiast for years, rather watch, the Astros didn't make it, but he'd rather watch,
I said
pickleball.
paint try.
He'd rather watch pickleball. He'd rather watch the Astros than, to watch the Dynamo. And that's sad to me because he likes to go to the games. We used to go to the games. He knew the Brian Chings. He knew like several of the players back then. But he says that he doesn't see a lot of passion in the team, or the chemistry of the team isn't there. He said he says that he's gonna fall asleep. So it's like little different things, and there's no connection with the community. So I think it's a lot of things, and no disrespect again. It's not to say to disrespect to the players. I want to say that most of the players are really trying to do their best that they can do, but you can't make a player that obviously isn't a superstar and obligate them to be a superstar if that's all they can give. So this comes from the administration, and it comes to the people that are seeing the game and are trying to make this puzzle into a winning team, and it's obviously not being done. So to me, it's kind of like, how long is this team really gonna last with people actually going to the games? The few people that do go, because I do feel like throughout the years there has been fans that are being very open of saying, I'm not buying tickets next year. I'm tired of going to watch a losing team. So I think that, again, the MLS has the comfort of saying that they're not gonna go into like a B because they haven't won. And I think that's a false. I don't like that system because, again, it doesn't light a fire under the team's leaders to really want to make this team a winning team, and not just say, there's a team, which to me is a lack of respect to the Houston fan base.
Victor, there are, as we close out our conversation about the Dynamo, there has been an announcement related to a new front office staff member, Nicolo Zini, as the Chief Revenue Officer. That was announced this week. Is that a clue about where the team is going? And I read one of your postings regarding, well, this isn't an on the field purchase. This isn't an on the field signing. Is this something that's headed in the right direction?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. If this guy's a miracle worker, then maybe it is. But I think it's going to be hard to sell some of these players to a market, a soccer market that's hasn't shown they're really interested in them. And that's not disrespect. That's the truth. The empty seats speak for themselves. Now, this guy's being brought in to generate revenue.
Correct.
Again, where's the revenue going to come from?
Sponsorship.
I think it's a tall task.
Yeah.
And again, and the bigger thing here is it's been a revolving door of people coming in to do these jobs, and it seems like the Houston Dynamo is just a trampoline for them to another job, or it's just it's somewhere they can spend a couple of years of their career and then find something else.
Victor,
it's the truth. That's how the club gets used.
It's the truth. I think, in fairness, I think that's the sports industry, and maybe we live it a little bit closer to heart here because we see the lack of consistency over time. But I think a lot of people literally are coming and going in this business to create opportunities for themselves. But no, I take your point that it can be, hey, this isn't the end all for some of these people's careers. It's a step in maybe they're headed to another league, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA.
And look, I'll give them this. It's somebody with quote unquote soccer experience. I mean,
Agreed.
I hate to say it, but that's an upgrade because apparently that was a detriment to work at the Houston Dynamo. So again, look, best of luck to them, and hopefully they can get the best out of it. But I think it is an indicator of where the ownership is. They care more about revenue with making the most out of the least investment, because when we look on the field, which is the product that matters, which is what fans are going to pay tickets to see, because they're not going to pay tickets to come watch the executives. They're not even going to pay tickets to come watch the coaching staff. They're going to come
probably
pay tickets to watch a player, right? Score goals or stop goals, one of those two. And until you get players that are stars or that can connect with fans and make make them feel a sense of connection that keeps bringing them back, I don't know where you're gonna, find money under the rock or something.
Well, and Laura, Victor, we know this. Winning brings fans, and winning brings sponsors, and winning brings attention. And I think we've dissected this cat many ways. And I'm sorry for those of you that have kitty cats.
Well, because again, it sounds so simple, and I hate to cut you off, but I have to, because it's a phrase that continues to get used by basically every soccer executive in town. Like if it was just that simple. I'll go by their example. What it was their success getting to the Western Conference Finals, right, in 2023 and winning the Open Cup,
sure.
Right? What did that do? What did that do to bring people back?
Yeah.
Did it bring anybody back? Because again, the reality here is there's much bigger work to be done because of years of decline in the team. And if I'll give this, because again, we're only here to help, right? And if they want to extend a phone call, and I'll be glad to tell them to this free of charge. Anybody new coming in, what the landscape here is, because I think that's the one thing that every new hire fails to get knowledge of, or at least learn. I think everybody just comes in and thinks, oh, well, this is how we're going to fix it. And because I say so, it's going to be this way. They don't know the market. They don't know the history. And that's the reason why this club continues to fail. And unless this new hire does anything to take some steps in correcting some of this, it's going to be the same thing over and over.
Victor, I couldn't agree with you more. And the gentleman's credentials are impeccable. He's multilingual. He's worked with Miami. He knows his stuff relative to soccer. But Victor, I live this at the youth level. Houston is its own thing, its own way of approaching the sport. From the youth side to the professional side, the level of competition, Victor, that we have here with the Rockets, the Astros, the Texans, college sports.
This isn't Italy. This isn't Miami.
Agreed.
It's much easier to market Messi
Agreed.
than it is to market, with all due respect, Amin Bassi or Sebastian Kowalczyk.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And I think I don't think you're being difficult, Victor. I think it's being honest and truthful to anyone coming in. And Laura, I think I for once I like Victor's comments here. It's better to be honest about what this is versus pretending that you're going to come in and either change things or not adapt to what's happening here. Is that fair, Laura?
And I want to go back into what Victor said and what you guys said about, Houston being a different market. I think, I was editor for a newspaper, a Spanish newspaper here. And I had to go, head to head sometimes with the owners because they wanted to treat this as a market based on other successful newspapers. I think that we were comparing to one that was in Boston and one in Miami. And the demographics here is different. If you go to New York, you're going to have more Puerto Ricans, more Dominicans, more Colombians, Mexicans have actually, there's more there than perhaps a couple years back, some Ecuadorians, same things for Miami. Yeah, Miami is mostly like Cuban, Colombian, some Dominicans, us talking as far as a Latino base. And I think here in Houston, the demographics has changed. 10 years ago, it was mostly, Mexicans, some Hondurans, Salvadorians, some Colombians sprinkled here and there, some Venezuelans. And now it's changed a lot. There's a lot of Venezuelans, there's a lot of Colombians. And I think that we have to take those things into consideration into our fan base. I think that you can't treat every Latino as the same Latino. We can't treat every market of Latinos as the ones we treat in different places. And
Sure.
I think that it's important to know that, and to know not only like the Latinos that come from a specific country, but the Latino Americans that have been here, whether it be first generation, like, Victor that was born here, or second generation, I'm not sure, or ones that came here when they were young, like myself, or first generation, like my brother. We have to take all those Latinos into consideration. So we just can't treat all Latinos the same because, we're more complex than that. So that work has to be done in order to bring that money in and that kind of connection to the team that it needs and that kind of loyalty to the team.
Laura, Victor, friends, we're talking about the Houston Dynamo and what they need to do now, not only on the field, but off the field, to better market the product. I think this has been an ongoing conversation for 20 seasons, for 20 years, that we've discussed this with the ups and downs. And I'm also here sharing with Victor and Laura the coverage we've had. I believe we've been there covering since day one of this club. And the club still struggles. I wish it didn't. I wish it was very successful. I wish we had coverage every day. Again, I'm flabbergasted that in the city you still have TV stations, outlets that send full crews for spring training, which is preseason for baseball, and they can't even come out to a Dynamo match to cover it. It's a completely different culture when it comes to that. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just not a soccer culture when it comes to coverage. And anyone coming in, I think, needs to be aware of that reality because it can be a very competitive market. Victor, I'll give you the last word on where the Dynamo should be headed, are headed, will be heading. Is that the right word?
Well, they're headed to the off season. We know that, but again, to me, it seems like it might be a wasted opportunity here with the World Cup coming to town, and I don't see this team latching on to what the magnitude of this event. I know it says part of that in the press release, and again, if this is a hire that's going to make that happen, more power to them. But we're what, 8 months out or something like that, 200 and something days. This thing's going to come by fast. Again, best of luck to them.
Best of luck to them. Well, that's one of the professional teams in town, friends. We also have the Houston Dash, and that team had an opportunity out in LA facing Angel City and Laura, this was a game that really was important to the playoff hopes for Fabrice Gautreau's team.
Yeah, this was, yeah, a must-win game, and I think that, you know, some of the same errors that were committed in games prior came out once again, and you know,
Disappointment.
we really need a
Yeah.
we really need a steady, consistent goal scorer. I think that there's teams that, you know, I think the team has a strong back line. I think that the midfield is pretty good. But I think that, you know, the forwards, in order for us to score, we need to have a goal scorer. And I think that's something that the Dash is lacking. Um, yeah, this game, it was hard to watch.
And as we go into the last two games of the season, and correct me if I'm wrong, the next one, by the way, friends, we'll have on Deportes Nation this Saturday, October 18th, if I'm not mistaken. Houston with a very tough task, Victor, taking on Kansas City, a team that's on top of the NWSL standings, a team that has it all. I guess it's now or never, right?
It has to be. I mean, there really isn't any other choice. I mean, they need help here to qualify, first of all.
Yeah.
So that's the reality. They didn't make life easy on them with this result here at Angel City. You know, to me, I think it's obviously they need a goal scorer. I agree with that. I don't think they were able to get the complete team they wanted, or at least that Gautreau would have wanted.
You mean put together in time for the playoff push?
Right. I think we're seeing that. And look, another part of this, and I'm sure we'll mention this, and we've talked about this throughout the year, a potential sell looming. How much of that influenced some of these moves that were made and interrupted that in a sense? Because I think, look, you see some of these mistakes in this game. These aren't mistakes you need to be making, you know, in the third to last game of the season. If the talent is just there, or the players just can't seem to not give away the ball, then you need better players, and you're not going to sign them at this stage in the season. So again, I don't know if that's on player recruitment throughout the year. Again, I don't know how much the sale hampered them, but I think the reality that we've been watching, and it's being confirmed, is that this isn't really a playoff team. Unless they prove us otherwise here in the last two games, and obviously they get some help around the league.
Maybe.
But that might be the sad reality. Yeah.
Get a lot of help. By the way, great article by Laura Gomez on what the sale means. Visit Deportes Nation. Laura, something quickly about what maybe is still pending, who the potential owner or owners are being speculated about. But I think this is becoming more and more of a reality, which can be troubling. Although, Laura, in your reporting, the organization says, not officially, but sources tell us that the team is not being planned on leaving Houston. Maybe that's something that we can rescue from this.
You know, and talking about AI, I actually put in one of the questions. I actually asked AI. I was like, what are the possibilities of this team really being bought out by, you know, the one that's right now in talks? And it was funny because it said, there is 98.5% of and I was like, okay. And then I asked it in a different way. And then it says, no, he will definitely not buy this team. And I'm like, what is this, like a magic ball? Like, what do we get different answers in, you know, AI?
I hope that was worth the water
I'm
you wasted. Some town out in California, it doesn't have running water because you decided to ask them about the
I was
Dash.
just talking to my brother about that because I'm like, you know, it's so convenient to have, but then I really try to limit my use of it because I'm like, you know, somebody's going to go without water today because honestly, yeah. But
Laura
yes,
messed that
you're
up.
right.
Laura messed that up for all of us.
Well, yeah. Me, I did everything wrong.
There you go.
But anyways, but I think that, what was the question again?
Maybe
AI.
the only good thing about a potential sale is that there's no guarantees, but it's likely that the team will remain here in Houston. What that looks like, the business arrangement, where would they play? There's still a lot of questions.
Yeah.
But maybe we should feel good about that piece.
I mean, every time that I've asked anyone that has to do anything with the organization of the Dash is the same thing that the answer's the same. The team will stay in Houston. It's one of the requisites. The team's not leaving. It's here to stay. And that's like, yay for me. But then again, you get things changed at the last minute. So in the ideal world, for me, the buyer would be somebody that, one, loves women's soccer, two, knows about women's soccer, three, actually knows about the culture of Houston and actually likes Houston and has dealt with the community of Houston.
You're asking for a lot.
Yeah, you're asking
I'm really
for a
not.
lot.
I'm not. Why are you like that? We have so many people here. Beyonce, where are you? Jay-Z, buy this freaking team. Don't tell me
Not
there's
here,
not people that have
apparently.
enough money. Look, there's people from Houston that have enough money to buy 2 NWSL teams. My point
Speaking
is,
of
that's
that,
why I
JJ
said-
Watt's too busy buying European clubs.
Well, there you go. But I'm saying, but he's not originally from here. So I don't know. People might fight me and say we love him, but whatever. He's not here anymore.
Laura, let's talk.
The point is, I want somebody that loves Houston to love the team and actually, want the team to succeed and feel a connection to it, not just see it as an investment. And I know, Alex, you're gonna say, but it's a business, and I'm gonna say, I don't care, Alex. I still want somebody that actually loves Houston and loves the team.
I don't even need to be here for the conversation. You already had it. It's perfect. By the way, let's talk Cifras. Let's talk the money. I believe that if the value speculated would be 120 million potential sale, that would definitely
Something around that. And they're saying that he's offering more than what the team is worth or what they thought the team
has been
was gonna
valued
sell
at.
for.
Right. Well, so Mr. Ted Siegel made a good investment. He can sell it and pick up some good money. That's also good business, Laura. Nothing wrong with good business, right?
Alex, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Let's end on a positive note, Laura. 2 players from the Dash, as they go into this last home match, were selected to be on the U.S. women's national team. That was just announced today, right?
Yes, Patterson and Jasmine Ryan are the 2 players that are have been called up. So once again, it really talks about the potential of these players and what they have brought to the team until now. And again, it's one of those fears that if the team doesn't do major changes for next season, maybe we're not going to have these players, because I have PTSD of renowned players that leave us or get yanked away or they're bored. And if they've stayed this long, at least Patterson, I'm like, please don't leave us. Please stay.
Yeah,
we're going to get better, right?
This is a rising star. So friends, please follow us, watch our broadcast, listen to our broadcast this Saturday, October 18th. I believe we'll be on the air at 5:30 with kickoff at 6. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Deportesnation.com, the official Spanish language home of your Houston Dash. Victor, let's jump to another women's competition coming up here literally also this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. I got to get my dates right here. But at the Cotton Bowl, where OU and Texas just played the Red River rivalry, Trinity FC will be taking on Club America. They're trying to create here a new tradition in a huge stadium that knows about sports, that knows about soccer. I'm excited about it. October 18th.
Yeah, I think the team announced that they've already sold more tickets than the friendly they had against Barcelona. I believe it was either earlier this year or last. It must have been earlier this year, I think.
I think it was before the start of
Barcelona's
the season.
Team. That this team's already, the Club America friendly's already drawn more. Also, the Cotton Bowl just had a big renovation, so I think they've sort of made the Cotton Bowl their own. It's a different league, so I think they get a different liberties at how to promote this. I like it because, again, it's a historic stadium. It's probably going to be tough to fill it up, or at least you make it look good on TV because of the way it's so huge. But this thing is going to be televised nationally. It's going to be international friendly, and I'd like to see more of these games again. I'd like that when we had the NWSL Liga MX Femenil Cup. I'd like to see more of those crossovers. We had Rayadas play the Dash this summer, and vice versa. I'd like to see. I know the Dash are going to do the California preseason. I'd like to see them go down to Mexico or go down to some, or even just here in Texas and make the rounds around some of these Texan cities and face some of these college teams. give it a different feel, bring the game to the people instead of just kind of, doing the easy, preseason friendly with teams you already faced the entire season, to be honest.
Laura, are you excited about Dallas Trinity FC taking on Club America? I know it's a friendly, but I think this is how it starts. This is how these kind of matches, this exchange of culture, exchange of environment, and also for the fans. I think it's something I'm looking forward to it.
No, yeah, I mean, just like when the Dash, like we just mentioned, when they played Tigres, I think we had a good number of people that were here, and not only that were here, but that from Tigres that were watching online. I think it's wonderful to have those kind of interaction of interligas, of interleagues, and I think that it's good to have Dallas. I think that it's also good to put some competition for the Dash to know that they might they're not the only professional women's soccer team in Texas, and I think that that's good competition. And having Club America come here also, I think that's important. It's one of the major teams of Mexico, and I think it brings fans together and it gets them to be able to watch a good game.
You mentioned the rivalry between Dallas and Houston. I would love for the Trinity and the Dash to play on a regular basis beyond a closed door scrimmage or something minor to really say, hey, look, let's talk about this. Let's build the rivalry. Let's build the tradition. I think that's a huge, huge part of it. So, friends, we hope you're following not only the Dash and our broadcast, official language Spanish broadcast audio, when the Dash will play here against Kansas City, but also go and support women's soccer in general. We've got to go, our production tells us. But before we do, let's talk about what's on our mind. What are we thinking about these days? And Laura, I'll turn to you first. What's on your mind, rather, as we close out the podcast?
So much. I know that a lot of people out there are struggling, and for a lot of the injustices that are going within our country, but I think that soccer is a good way to try to relax, to find some joy. So I invite you all to listen to us in the last home game of regular season for the Houston Dash this Saturday. I think that it's going to be a good game. We'll see what the Dash can do against this amazing team that they're going to face, and see if they can do some magic and maybe make it to the playoffs by the glory of the Galaxy.
We will see. And you're not referring to the LA Galaxy, by the way, just the Galaxy.
No, just a general Galaxy.
In general.
Like
the powers that be. Victor Araiza, what's on your mind as we close out the podcast?
Oh, I'm going to sound like a total nerd here, but MLS decision day. It's I like the finale to the regular season in MLS. Obviously, playoff seeding, even though we don't have a local tie into this. Well, actually, we might have. Again, we've been following the story of Eric Quill, Houstonian coaching for FC Dallas. And first year up there, he might be able to clinch the playoffs here. That's going to be one of the stories. Austin, I think, already clinched their spot. They can go, I think, no lower than sixth. So, but again, we're going to be able to see some of these matchups and see who the two Texas teams that, or at least the potential two Texas teams in the playoffs will be matched up with.
You are a soccer nerd.
Who knows? Maybe Dynamo fans will have something to celebrate if Dallas don't end up qualifying.
Maybe. You are a soccer nerd, but we love you, by the way, and we need you, Victor. So yes, decision day is important to many, many, many of us as well. Friends, as we wrap up this Soccer Tejas podcast, what's on my mind, Laura just mentioned how we should go to a game to relax, to enjoy it. We friends here, I have talked about the crisis we have when it comes to youth soccer and referees. But this crisis now, I see it every weekend in local parks around Houston, and I hear about stories not only in Texas but beyond, that parents on the sidelines have gotten out of control. There is now a concept of you being on the sideline and screaming that's acceptable. And not only screaming, but parents and fans that watch youth kids, I guess that's redundant, watch children play soccer and think they need to behave as if they were at a professional match. It's gotten out of control, and not only in the abuse of referees, but also in the physical entering of fields, of fights, an entire culture where this is permissible, and it has to stop. We at the youth level talk about any way we can curb this literal abuse that happens every weekend, and it has to stop. A youth soccer game, friends, is not the place to show up, to scream, to not only insult, abuse, or worse, physical contact, physical fighting. That's not the place for it. And it's a zero tolerance approach. I don't know how anyone could justify that. That's not soccer culture. That's being a hooligan. That's being someone that doesn't care for the sport. And least of all, when there's children involved. So I ask all of you parents to please take a look at yourselves. Look in the mirror about how you're going to comport yourself, how you're going to behave when you go out to the matches this weekend. Be there to support whether you win or lose. At the end of the day, please trust me, this is about our sport, and it's going to affect generations to come. So there you have it. That's what's on my mind here as we wrap up the podcast. I'll take my blood pressure medicine, and we will relax. Victor, Laura, you guys are awesome. Thank you. I know you will be, both of you will be with us when we broadcast the Dash versus Kansas City match this Saturday from Shell Energy Stadium. But friends, on behalf of all of us, our production staff, Victor Araiza, Laura Gomez, I'm Alex Parra. Thanks to all of you that take the time to watch us, to follow us. We want you to continue sending us your comments, please, and story ideas. We really do appreciate it. So on behalf of all of us, thank you. And until next time where we meet here on the Soccer Tejas Podcast.